Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. I have another book review for you today. This is Goosebumps, SlappyWorld number 3. I Am Slappy's Evil Twin by R.L. Stine. I like this a lot. I thought it was really good. I thought it was a really surprisingly good one. Probably easily, so far, my favorite of the SlappyWorld series, which I am currently kind of reading in order. It's the newest series. I figured I might as well read it in order. There's only like 10 books right now. There's going to be 12 or 13 in total, at least as of yet, for what's announced for next year. But I Am Slappy's Evil Twin was really good in my opinion. It's not exactly what the title or the cover shows, but sort of kinda. It starts off on a really big high note, and then it kind of let me a little down, kind of disappointed me at just a little bit. And then after that, it was really, really good for the most part. There's some little nitpicks I have here and there. Kind of like with Slappy's Nightmare, the old Series 2000 book. There's a lot of things in here that I love. I would say 95% of the book I love to death. There are some things I have complaints about myself. Kind of where to start at. There is an intro, a prologue, if you will, to the book that starts in 1920. And I thought this was great. This is actually about the evil sorcerer who created Slappy. We've heard about him from Bride of the Living Dummy back in the old days with, you know, Series 2000. And Slappy's Nightmare talked about him a little bit too. We also have an appearance from Mr. Wood. And we also find out how the evil sorcerer learned how to bring the dummies to life. That was fascinating. I thought it was the best part of the book, easily for me. I thought it was great to have a real canonical answer to who did what. How did they learn what? It was great. It was really cool. It added a whole new level to the Slappy lore and his backstory and everything else around him. But not like in a gimmicky, kind of dumb way. I mean, I know the series is called SlappyWorld for this particular era of Goosebumps, but it was fun and it worked, in my opinion. The problem that I have is that this is very reminiscent to Frankenstein. And that's not the problem. My problem comes in with Mr. Wood just is gone. They don't talk about him ever again in the entire book. You would think, looking at this cover and seeing the title, I Am Slappy's Evil Twin, that this would be about Mr. Wood and Slappy. It's not. It's not. I like the direction we're going, but now I'm confused. The Goosebumps wiki didn't help anything with the selection of who Slappy's brother, or possibly brothers, were. I'm real lost about that, I have to be honest with you. It actually makes no sense. But I won't go into that here. It's a spoiler-free review, just like it always is here on my channel. The story feels very reminiscent at times of Night of the Living Dummy. Just that whole series in general, the old classical series of Goosebumps. And the way it was very dark, the way it was very creepy and eerie, atmospheric, all those things. How you had parents not believing the kids in situations, but this one's a little bit of a different story. Just a little bit. It's a little too modern in some aspects for me. That's kind of one of my nitpicks about the book. You have kind of in modern day, after the prologue's done, that takes place in 1920, which, by the way, I hope this book maybe starts a new trend of every time we have a Slappy-focused book, like Ghost of Slappy is the next Slappy-focused book in this SlappyWorld series, I hope that it'll tie back a little bit more to this book. But I doubt it will. That never happens with Slappy books specifically, or with Goosebumps books for that matter in total. The closest you get to that is like the Monster Blood series, but not entirely. I don't think it's going to happen. But with the Mr. Wood aspect, I thought should be highlighted more, in my opinion. Anyway, so essentially, there are a brother and sister. The main character's name is Luke. The sister's name is Kelly. They have a best friend named Jamal, who is very smart, very intelligent. They are, well, not Jamal, but Luke and Kelly are the sons, or the son and daughter, the children of a very famous Hollywood director who makes horror movies, kind of gimmicky B-movie type stuff too. When you see some of the titles of his films, it's kind of like The Giant Leech That Ate Everyone and The Blob That Ate Everyone, that type of thing. They love horror movies. They love these ideas. They kind of get involved sometimes of having cameos within the director's films and whatnot. And of course they live in Hollywood Hills. When was the last time you read a Goosebumps book that focused on rich kids? I was a little surprised. There wasn't like a situation where they were talking about their own pinball arcade machine or anything like that. I kind of expected that, but we didn't have that. But they lived in Hollywood Hills. Thought that was a really interesting twist. And like I said, they're kind of putting together a drone. Their own little drone to just do some missions with. Jamal's pretty much the only one taking care of that. The main two kids are not really focused too much on that because they don't really know how to build this stuff. They're kind of leaving it up to their smart friend. Anyway, their dad gets home one day, and he's just kind of finished working on a big job with a new movie that he's working on. And he apparently brought home 2 ventriloquist dummies that are identical, right? And when he got home, he didn't tell the kids he was home. All of a sudden, when the kids are out in the garage, 2 ventriloquist dummies just walk up and start talking to him. That's right. We don't even have a card reading scene where we have the card that has, you know, Karu, Marie, Odana, Loma, Malanu, Carano on it. We don't even have that scene in this book, which was very interesting to me that we even went that route. It's almost like the two dummies are automatically alive. Now, if it's not Mr. Wood, who are the two dummies? Of course, you have Slappy, our boy, Slappy from SlappyWorld. And you have the other new brother, I guess, Snappy. And Snappy is very courteous, very kind, for the most part. Like, if Slappy, like, threatens the kids to do something, to, like, their dad or to the house or anything like that, Snappy is like, come on, Slappy, don't do that. That's not the right thing to do. How are you going to make friends? You know, he's that guy. He's kind of a weird parody of Slappy, like, in a weird good way of Slappy. And they play off each other a lot. The two brothers fight a lot, but mainly because Slappy agonizes, or antagonizes, everything with Snappy all the time. Snappy is kind of the good guy. This story, I won't tell you much more, because there's not a whole lot more to tell you, frankly. I kind of told you a little bit too much, but that literally, all of that information I just gave you happens in the first, like, 40 pages of this book. It's a lot of information for a 130 pages long book. But the kids start to kind of panic, because of course the two dummies are doing stuff around the house. I thought the tie-in with Revenge of the Living Dummy, the Horrorland book, was a really cool thing. Not a tie-in necessarily, but the dad, as a horror movie maker and fanatic and everything, in his attic, very much like the friend of Brittany, the main character in Revenge of the Living Dummy from the Horrorland #1 book, her dad upstairs in his attic has tons of horror stuff. He has like a horror museum, basically. And essentially, in this museum, he has a lot of things like Freddy Krueger's glove and a lot of little things like that. They actually use name drops for different things. And I thought that was really, really cool as a big horror movie fan myself. I like the love for old Hollywood that's in Goosebumps veins in general. You can tell that things like the Thing from Another World inspired R.L. Stine to write things like Goosebumps. I really love that. I think it's a cool thing. It's my kind of movies. You know, I love old black and white horror films like Frankenstein, Dracula, all the old stuff that we all know and love so much. But even the more obscure things like Them and Attack of the Giant Leeches, you know, things like that. Really good stuff. Really good stuff that's kind of involved here with that upper attic horror museum thing that was so cool to me. Now, the dad does not know that the two dummies are alive. The kids think they're just a bunch of animatronic robots. The dad says they're not, and he locks the two dummies because they're so valuable up into plastic cases. There's this whole thing between the dad and the dummies and how they're not happy with what he's going to do with them after the movie's done filming. And I thought that was fascinating. I thought that the whole motivation here was really interesting with the dummies. Like I said, the book is a little too modern with the whole drone thing, and towards the end of the book, I was kind of surprised by how explosive the ending of this book is, frankly. This book does not stick on the small-scale feel that Goosebumps typically did, especially in the old classic 90s days. The old classic 90s days with the original 62-book count, they had a situation where they would try to make books have a small-scale feeling to them so that they could easily adapt them to TV episodes for the TV show. Obviously, it made sense. It was a perfect idea. I don't think there was any problem with that at all. And the episodes were very low budget too in the Canadian TV show, so it's not like there was like a whole lot of stuff that they had to really focus on. They really did make the books feel very small scale story-wise. This book is not like that. It's like they don't even care about doing an adaptation or anything. This is such a big, large-scale book. I've noticed that with the SlappyWorld books, mainly with Attack of the Jack, the second book in the series, which was not good. Had some problems, some big old problems that kind of sucked. I talked about that in my last book review I did. But with this particular book, they kind of did this idea of really kind of taking a small-scale, usually type story with Slappy books and Night of the Living Dummy books and all that, and they made it into a big thing. Like, the third act of this book is enormous. I was really surprised by how much of an action movie type feel this becomes. Not like a car chase or anything like that, but kind of tense, frankly. You didn't really know what was going to happen at the end of this book, and then the finale, like the last couple of chapters, were a pretty big deal. The stakes were really, really high, higher than I would argue that they've ever been compared to anything else in Goosebumps ever, amongst any of the series, from what I've understood and from what I've read so far of these books that I've collected. I was really impressed with SlappyWorld. I'm Slappy's evil twin. I think it has a whole lot to offer. Now, the very last chapter, not the little thing from Slappy, the SlappyWorld stuff, we'll get into that in a minute, by the way, but the very last chapter that ends the story, I did not like the twist there. I thought it was kind of dumb, but it also, at the same time, feels like a really good modern rendition of the original Night of the Living Dummy book from the old classic series. I thought that ending there was kind of here and there. Fans that grew up on that book would love that. I think in this book, If it's a kid reading it, they're going to like it. I think if it's an adult like myself, it's going to feel like a rehash, you know? But again, we have every single Night of the Living Dummy book that feels like every single Night of the Living Dummy book. They've never changed up the formula. They all feel the same. One of the only ones to ever do that was Slappy's Nightmare, where Slappy had to go around and do good deeds, and it was mostly focused on Slappy's perspective, the entire story. Aside from that, every Slappy book has basically always been Slappy being the villain, the parents not caring about whether the thing was alive or not, not really believing the kids. That's kind of a big portion here, the dad getting angrier and angrier at the kids. But the ending was, the little twist at the end I didn't love, but I understood it. I got why he did that. I get why R.L. Stine wanted that. It's fine. It's fine for me. Now, there was something else I wanted to talk. Oh yeah, the SlappyWorld stuff. Of course, for anybody who hasn't read any of these books, if this happens to be the first book you've read and the first video you've seen from me, I wanted to kind of re-highlight this again. One of the things that SlappyWorld does, it's all typically, at least for the beginning, the middle, sometimes a couple of times, and the end of these books, have a random page or so dedicated to Slappy narrating things to you. It's usually a very Deadpool-esque type thing, where he's just throwing random one-liner joke type things at you, telling you how handsome he thinks he is, and then he makes kind of a pun. You know, things like that. And it's fine, I think. Kind of like the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt, which I love to death. I like that better than I like this with SlappyWorld. But it is SlappyWorld, so let's have it while we have it anyway. But I'm just saying, there are times in, well, for example, in Slappy Birthday to You, the first of the SlappyWorld books, I thought it worked really well, because it's a Slappy-focused book. Now, the second book, Attack of the Jack, I thought it felt totally out of place, right? Like, it didn't need to be in here. I understood why it was there, but it didn't need to be, because it wasn't necessary. It would almost, like, re-highlight events that had happened so far. I didn't like that. I didn't think that was necessary. Kids are not stupid. But in this book, it's a Slappy-focused book again. Slappy does his little narrations every once in a while, and it kind of felt to me like it was still out of place, at least on the middle parts of the book, right? The beginning and ending I don't really care about, but the middle portions where they would randomly have you know, Slappy kind of jump in and narrate little pieces of the story, not very necessary in my opinion. I thought they were a little out of place. I don't know if that's going to be common with the SlappyWorld books. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's not that big of a deal. It's kind of a nitpick, frankly. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, it didn't get any better. I think Slappy Birthday to You proved that that was like the only book that's going to be able to utilize this very well, in my opinion. But overall, guys, what are your thoughts on the third SlappyWorld book, I Am Slappy's Evil Twin? Did you love this? Did you hate it? Did you like it? What did you think about my review? I'd love to hear all your thoughts and comments down in the comment section down below. I love this cover, by the way. I didn't talk about that, but I love the cover here. I really like the SlappyWorld covers. I think they look so good. It's such good art. It's like the best art we've had, I think, personally, since like Series 2000, you know, when Tim Jacobus left. I wish we could have gotten Jacobus back for this. That would have been cool. What's he doing nowadays? Anyway, if it comes to rating Goosebumps SlappyWorld number 3, I Am Slappy's Evil Twin, on a 5-star basis, I would probably give this a 4 out of 5. But it's a really high 4 out of 5. I think this is one of the best Slappy books we've had in a long time. If you liked SlappyWorld to You, or Slappy Birthday to You, SlappyWorld number 1, a whole lot, if you loved it, I think you'll love this too. This feels even more like the old Night of the Living Dummy books, but a couple of little modern catches. But like I said, the third act is huge on this. I was really surprised by that. The stakes are getting raised so high at the end of that book, or this book, that I didn't expect it to go that way. But when it comes to this book, I liked it a lot. 4 out of 5 stars, like I said, very good. Very, very much a recommendation on my behalf to you guys. I think you'd love this if you haven't read it so far. And you don't have to read any previous books to read this. I'm just reading in order just for me. But anyway, what are your thoughts? Put them down below. Thank you for watching, guys. May the Lord Jesus Christ bless you guys today, and goodbye.